What's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is just going to be something pretty simple. The Ram needs an oil change. It hasn't made an appearance on the channel in a good while, so I figured I'd just give it a quick oil change, record how I do it, and just kind of show a little bit around it. Not too much has been done. I'll show you how many miles it's at in a second, but this is the first video that's going up on the channel on the new phone. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the phone at the end of the old video, but my old iPhone 12 Pro Max was a little bit broken. I'll put in the pictures and video now. But yeah, so I needed a new one. New one's here. I'm recording with the new one. Hopefully that should fix my camera and microphone issues that I was having earlier. Microphone kept cutting out. The camera wouldn't record, so that should not be an issue anymore. But I'm going to pull the Ram up to the street, and I'll show you how many miles it's got on it. I'm going to get changed the oil, and then that'll be pretty much it for today's video. So currently, we are sitting at 151,654 miles. There she goes. There we go. Shut her off. So looking at all the tools and materials that I'm going to be using here, I have my oil catch can that I got from Walmart. It's a pretty good one. I'd recommend it if you ever need one. I got my little oil filter wrench. I believe it's either a 93 millimeter inside, it looks like. So that's for the oil filter. I have my torque wrench, which you don't necessarily need, but I like to have. I'm using my socket wrench set. I'm using my 3/8 inch drive and a 16 millimeter socket. That's all you really need. I have my oil filter. I'm using a Mobile One oil filter because that's what they had in stock at the store when I went. It's an M1204A. And then I have Castrol GTX 10W30 engine oil. This is conventional oil. You can use synthetic, I believe. Should be fine. But once again, I'm doing this on a Ram 5.9 liter V8. So let's get going. First and foremost, when I'm doing any work like this, I always like to pop the hood to start. And there she is, the big boy 5.9 liter V8. Now over here on the driver's side, you'll see your actual oil fill up. Gonna crack that open, and the reason that I like to do that is because I like to make sure that you can actually get this off before you start. So if you're halfway through changing your oil, you're about to fill it, and then realize that you can't put more oil in it, you have a big problem. So I always like to just make sure it's at least loose before I get going. I'm just gonna leave the hood up for now, and then I'll hop underneath the car. I should also mention that for this, you're gonna want a funnel, so I'll grab my funnel later. You can see I didn't have it out, I forgot about that. Now I'm underneath of the truck itself now. You can see I'm laying pretty much directly underneath of the engine. Right over here, right behind your front differential, is where you'll find your drain plug for your oil pan. I'm going to set my oil pan underneath of it, going to get it all opened up, and I'm going to use my 16 millimeter socket to get that off and then drain out all the old oil. Alright, now that I'm under here, like I said, I have my 16 millimeter socket. I'm just going to wedge it on here and crack her loose. Might be a little tight. There we go. Just get her going and be ready for the oil. Let that drain out for a quick second. I'll go wash off my hands in the meantime. Alright, now that the oil is down from a constant dripping stream, I'm going to clean off the plug. It's got a little bit of dirt residue around the side, and then I'm going to put it back on the bottom. Going to use my socket wrench here to give it a bit more tightening down. Feels pretty secure like that, but I'm going to get my torque wrench just to validate that it's tight enough. Alright, I have my 16 millimeter socket on my torque wrench here. I'm going to put it on and I'm going to crank it down to 32 foot-pounds of torque. There we go. It's already set. Nice and snug. Alright, now I'm laying right behind the passenger side front tire. You can see right up here is your oil filter. So I'm going to get underneath of there. I'm going to get my wrench on it. I'm going to loosen it up once I have my pan underneath. And then I'll drain that out and then screw on the new one. Okay, now before I ever change out an oil filter, I always hold it up, compare it, make sure it looks the same. That looks to be about the same size, width, everything like that. So I'm going to tuck it back into the box, and I'm going to take off the current one. Alright, so I have my 3/8 inch drive socket. You can see it fits nice and snug onto here. I'm just going to crack her loose. Make sure my pan's underneath. Don't want to stay in the street. And there we go. It's at the point now where I can hand loosen it. So apparently it doesn't want to come off. I'll crack that off in a second. But for the time being, I will unscrew this and try not to make a mess. And I'm making a mess. There we go. Look at all that used oil. Nasty. I'm going to put my filter down here and then go clean up again because I'm covered in oil. Alright, so I have my new oil filter here. Before I do anything with that, I'm going to get a little bit of oil on my finger. I'm going to rub it around the seal of the actual filter itself. Now what this does is it helps to prevent any leakage. It helps to seal it when it goes on initially, and it helps it to lubricate it a bit more just to keep it sealed well. I also like to make sure, taking the old filter here, sorry, you can see that the old gasket is still on there. You want to make sure that that gasket is on there, because if it gets stuck on there and you double up on gaskets when you screw that on, that'll cause it to actually start to leak out because you only need one gasket. So I'm going to screw this on. It just screws on, hand tighten it, and then I'm going to give it an extra little quarter turn, half turn, whatever you want to do with the actual wrench itself. You see it just screws on like that. Then it's met with some resistance. There we go. It's a bit challenging to get on now, so I'm going to put on my wrench once again. Just pop it into there. Put it on and give it a good little few turns. You don't want it on over tightened, but you also don't want it loose because that is not something you want popping off. There we go. Not over cranking it, but cranking it to the point where there's a good bit of resistance, so I'm done cranking that on now. If I reach up and feel it with my hand, it feels snug, feels like it's not going anywhere, so that feels good to me. Let's fill it up with oil. Now that I have the drain plug and the oil filter back on, I'm going to use my funnel here and fill it up right here where it says engine oil with 5 quarts of 10W30. Once again, it takes 5 quarts. I'm using 10W30 conventional. I'm using Castrol. That's what it's been running the past however many thousand miles we've had it. And yeah, I'll show you that now. And there you go, the engine is filled back up with oil. I'm going to screw the cap back on, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to do next. I like to put it on a couple clicks just like that, just to make sure that it's safe and secure. Now that it's back on, I'm going to go back to the underside. I'm going to wipe up everything around the oil pan, or the oil pan, get the drain plug cleaned up, get the oil filter area cleaned up. The reason that I like to do that is so that afterwards when I'm done, I can run it, test run it for a bit, and make sure that nothing's leaking out. Because if there's anything there, you might think that that's what leaked out before. So I like to have it nice and clean, so I'm going to go underneath, clean it out, and then give it a test run. Alright, with the fresh oil in it, I'm going to start it up, run it for about 5-10 minutes, clean up in the meantime, make sure it's not leaking, make sure it sounds right, and everything like that. Well, after running it for a couple minutes, it seems like there's nothing leaking out of it, so we're good to go. You will notice, however, that it is leaking some coolant, so that'll probably be the next coming video. You can see all that dripping down. Radiator seems like it's going bad. You can see it dripping right now, but yeah, I'll be taking a crack at that probably later, but oil change is done, so there you go. Thanks for watching.